Welcome back. I want to begin by saying that drawing these presidential candidates in no way implies any endorsement one way or another. I will say that drawing Biden will give us an opportunity to study the effects of age on the human head. We're going to begin with President Biden's cranium. Interestingly, we can see his cranium is not as elongated as a typical human cranium. You see how it's really from the side a circle, which is not what we typically find, right? It's like usually the cranium is substantially deeper than it is tall. Well, I guess I'm not really being fair. Let's see. The bottom of his cranium is probably about here. So we'll say it's a little wider than it is tall. So we'll start with the normal shape. I was kind of reading the bottom of his cranium a little bit lower than it actually is. And part of one thing that threw me off is the length of his ear. As I've probably told you before, or you may have heard, ears continue to grow throughout the entire lifespan. So you can count on your ears getting slightly larger for every year that you're alive. And because of Biden's age, again, his ear is very long. So it's partly what gave me an impression of a round cranium. We're going to mark his brow ridge, centered on the cranium side, and his ear hole near the bottom. His tragus is kind of pointing towards us, so we can actually see right into Biden's ear hole. Let's take a few measurements. We've got the top of the head here, brow ridge here, and the bottom of the cranium here. So he actually does have an unusual, look how tall his cranium is, right? From here to here is quite a bit larger than this unit. But these two units are indeed the same. You see that? So that is the other reason I had an impression of a round cranium, is his cranium really comes up high towards the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this is plenty big. I might just lower the brow ridge a little to shrink this unit. We want to give an effect that this unit is quite a bit bigger than this one. And then we're going to make these two the same. So the line of the face is going to come down to here. And remember, there's a big difference between drawing a generic person and a particular person. Portraiture is about capturing particularities. Memorizing the basic forms is about memorizing generalities, like averages. Really different. And if you tweak your portrait in the direction of being more average than the person is, you'll make an attractive portrait, but it won't look like the person. That's something you always see if you get your portrait drawn in a tourist trap like Montmartre in Paris. You'll go around and you'll notice that all the portraits look pretty attractive. People are sometimes happy with them. It's like, oh, you made me look great, but they don't look much like the people. So again, I'm going to check your work for the main thing we're looking for is look, this unit has to be bigger than this one. Now we've got the indent under the brow ridge, and his nose has a clear direction change. See it? It's like we're going to go from that indent to here, And then we're going to change direction and we're going to down to the tip. And these angles are slightly different. This one's closer to like 45 and this one is steeper. You see that? So we're going to block that in with this angle, which is almost 45, and this angle, which is a steeper angle. This kind of nose is sometimes misleadingly called like a hook nose. Doesn't really look like a hook, but that's a term that you sometimes hear. Now we're going to look at the little radius of the tip of Biden's nose to try to make it the right amount of roundness. It's a relatively pointy nose, so we're going to make it a small radius. And we're going to drop a construction line down from the brow ridge straight down. And you can see that his philtrum is all the way back at the line of the face. And that is partly what gives him a kind of aged look, because he still has his front teeth, but you notice how his upper lip is receding behind his bottom lip, and that is typical of somebody who's actually lost their front teeth. So it's partly makes him look older than he is. His mouth is right where we expect to find it, which is, well, let me check. So this is about 1/3 of the way down, and then this is 2/3. So see what's happening? That's just what we expect. So let's mark 1/3 of the way down. His upper lip is virtually non-existent. So for those of you who are in the habit of drawing fish lips, like, you see how there's really no projection outward of the upper lip, and there's barely even an undercut. And his line between his lips is straight, goes down slightly, and then down again towards the outside corner. And then he's got this projecting bottom lip. Here's another angle we can assess, which is about I would say 50 degrees. And here's an angle that's slightly steeper, so we're going to change direction at the top of the chin and then like that. The nostril is perched right above the philtrum, which is where we usually look for it. And it turns, the top of the nostril turns into the bottom of the ala, right behind the line of the face. And then the top of the ala is way up here, about halfway between the bottom of the ala and the line of the nose. You see that? Fractional thinking again. It's even a little above halfway. And the very back of the ala is overlapped by the cheek slightly. So we're going to draw a little hint of a frontal curve of the cheek. I'm going to check my facial angle. And it's looking to me like on my drawing, I made the chin stick out a little too far. You can check yours. You know, check this angle. And make sure that your chin is staying behind that line. Behind a line drawn at that angle. I just fixed mine. Okay. Let's go ahead with with the eye. Now, some of you are in the habit of making eyes way too big. Take a careful look at just what we're seeing here for this eye. It's like, compare the size of the eye to like the size of the nostril. You see how much smaller it is? So we know that the eye has to be below this indentation. So we know the eye level's about here. And lately, the way I've been teaching this is I've been looking for a parallel construction on Biden. If we go right from this plane change here and we run roughly parallel to the line of the nose, that's going to help us find where that back corner of the eye belongs. And then notice that this eye really doesn't fill much of this space. It's like really small compared to his nose. And also notice there's no visible eyelid. And his eyebrow is kind of hanging down near his eye. Okay. So let's not it's tempting for me to assess my work now. I keep feeling like the chin, giving him too much chin. Okay, so this is sort of his jawline. Let's do a little shading to indicate this soft plane change under the skin. And make sure this is angling up and ending in front of the ear hole. Don't bring the jaw behind the ear hole. Some people have been doing that. Not a good look. And notice that we've talked about how extremely overweight people, if I can still say that, they have a lot more flesh under their jaws than people who are very thin. Biden's not overweight, but his age has caused this skin to loosen under his chin. So it's sagging. Can you see that? So we're really not going to follow the jawline at all. Instead, we're heading, down at about a 45-degree angle and kind of curving slightly. And the reason that we can do that without making him look like he's extremely overweight is that we're going to shade this little crease in here, which is going to make it clear that it's just kind of saggy skin and not like not filled with fat. It's like a deflated balloon. Okay, I'm definitely going to be promoting this heavily on my channel because I think there's going to be a lot of demand for that. A lot of people want to draw Biden probably. Okay, let's back up a little, see how we're doing. Okay, this is going to be really good ear practice, again, because his ear is so big. Look at where the bottom of his ear lands. Bottom of his ear lands at the bottom of his philtrum. The middle of his philtrum. Top of his ear lands above his eyebrow. So the ear is much larger than we're used to seeing. And the angle of the ear is roughly parallel to the angle of the nose. You see that? It's like, so we're gonna draw the top, the bottom, the angle And only then are we going to sketch the outline of the ear. Before you draw something, you really need to take a few measurements and make up your mind like where it needs to go. And you're going to have a hard time drawing it big enough because you've learned how big ears are and you're not used to seeing them this big. But this is what happens as we age. The ear is made of cartilage. Like the nose, it just keeps growing as long as you live. Here's that little tiny tragus. Doesn't even cover the ear hole. Here's the antitragus. The helix starts way up here above the ear hole. There's the ear hole. Helix starts here, and it takes some unusual turns. You see that? It like goes up, and then it's a little bit kind of crushed in right here. And then it has another kind of weird little bump right here. And then the crease fades out all the way down to the earlobe. So what we're really seeing is we're seeing variations on forms that have become familiar to us. But the fact that they're familiar allows us to appreciate and capture the variations in a way that we would not be able to do if we hadn't already learned the forms. So here's the antihelix, starts behind the helix. And there's Biden's ear. Now, one of the effects of age is there's a little bit of a pouch under the eye, so we're going to throw that in. And let's back out a little bit again and see how we're doing. I feel like I'm going to need to make a few edits on mine. Hopefully some of you are doing better. If you want, we could throw a few student drawings into the video this time if anyone wants to make their work public. Might be funny. It might be funny at least. Okay, so here's the actual shape of his head. Look, it kind of peaks high towards the back, and then it really comes like virtually straight down. And he's got a couple neck creases here. Make sure you slope that collar. Look, it comes down in the front and way high up in the back. And look at how the collar actually is containing his flesh. Like, you see how it, like, there's the collar, and then the skin's kind of like erupting over the edge of the collar there. But you see how that it starts to look more like him with the hair and the head shape. Okay, so I'm at a stage now where I need to think about making some corrections. And I want you to watch this process because it's important to understand that artists often don't get a likeness right away. I don't think I have a likeness here. So what I'm going to try first, it feels to me like I could put the eye a little bit higher. And you might be seeing different corrections in your drawing, and by a little bit I mean about 1/8 of an inch higher, like to there. And I'm going to try making the philtrum just a little further forward. Feels like it's maybe a little too far back.
By the time you're finished listening to this Pepsi Zero Sugar, you'll be 15 seconds
And
because game day is so close you can almost taste it. Football watching better with Pepsi.
I don't know. I might need your help. Yeah, Mohammed, tell me. No, with my drawing, tell me, like, where do you think my drawing is failing the worst? Like, what part doesn't look like Biden? The back head? No, I think that's pretty good. Did I give him too much of a hook nose? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, let's... Oh, and actually the indent above his nose a little... doesn't go back quite as far. So I'm going to just straighten this line out a little. Yeah, that looks a little better. What do you think? Would you recognize that as Biden? We need to add more wrinkles. He's got these creases at his outside corner of his eye. And he also has some forehead creases. We could send the president a link to this video. We've got a little shading to do under the cheekbone here. And his chin even cuts back a little further. It's sort of what you would call a kind of a weak chin. That's a little better, isn't it? I would really love to put some of your drawings in this video, you guys, if you... I'm gonna give you a minute to... Let's see, somebody had to have done better than me today, come on. Okay, I'm gonna pause the video and I'm gonna come around and give you a minute to finish these. And as promised, we're now gonna share student work with my massive subscriber base, and maybe, who knows, maybe with President Biden himself, who might be watching right now. So Mr. President, if you want to know how your constituents see you, here's a little sampling. That's very good. When you consider that this is an intro class, you look at the quality of the work here. Yeah. So the large ear on this one makes it verge on caricature, I think. Wow, look at that. So impressive. Okay. And once again, the reason we do celebrities is because we can recognize them. It's great practice. You can show it to other people, and if they say, "Oh, that's the president," then you know you've succeeded. So, thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you next time.